This is my Nissan 300Zx twin This is my Nissan 300Zx twin turbo. These are some Maxpeeding rods, so I can go really fast. These are the rears. I've already done the fronts. I think I may have overdone it. Anyway, let's go back in time and see how I did that. This here is the wheel arch, which is in a different postcode to the wheel. So this is the solution. These are three-way adjustable coilovers from Maxpeeding Rods. I've got an affiliate link for these in the description and a discount code as well in the description. So basically, if you use that, I will get a little bit of commission, which means that I can spend it fixing my car, and you will also get a little bit of discount. So that's a win-win. So first of all, coilover versus lowering springs. Well, with a lowering spring, your standard shot will obviously have the spring starting here, going right down to the bottom there, and that spring will be compressed between here and here, and that is basically called the preload on the spring. And when you lower it, you're obviously putting a shorter spring in here, and you'll have this free bit here. What will happen is the weight of the car will move that up to the spring, which will give it some kind of preload when the weight of the car is on it. However, if you're going over bumps and stuff like that, this bit here is free to move on its own, which then it doesn't have the preload on it, which is not good for the suspension. However, with a coilover, you can adjust the preload. So basically you can loosen that off and you can tighten this, which will compress the spring, or you can loosen it, which will decompress the spring. So you adjust the preload, lock in the preload with this, so it doesn't matter what height you have, the preload is always there, because this bit here is for adjusting the height. If you slacken off this, you can unscrew or screw this up, which will basically adjust this gap here. So basically what you have got in effect is a shock absorber with an extension on it, and you can adjust the extension. The other thing you've got on these, which you do not have on most standard shock absorbers, is you can adjust the dampering. So basically, if you turn this fully one way, it's going to make the damper really soft. If you turn it fully the other way, it's going to make the damper really hard, and you can obviously set it at various settings in the middle, suit your preferences. But Simon, you just brought some cheap crap from China. Well, they're cheap, they're from China, but whether they're crap is debatable. And the reason being, if you do your very basic research, you will know that the cost of living in China is very different to it is over here. Hence, China makes everything for over here pretty much, then over here imports it, sticks a badge on it, and then ups the price of it. Obviously that's how business works. But if you buy direct from China, or from a company in China who sells basically direct to the UK and other countries, you've cut out several middlemen, and you've cut out a lot of the price, which is basically what is happening with the Maxpeeding rods. Put this into context, there's a company called Snap-on. You might have heard of them. They're very expensive, and they make very expensive tools. They make a jack, and that jack is somewhere between 800 and £1,000, I believe. Anyway, there is a shop in America, I believe it was Arbor Freight, and what they did is they found out where the factory in China was that was making the jacks for Snap-on, and they went to that factory and they says, can you make them for us, right, and we'll sell them for 200 quid. And that's what happened. And then obviously Snap-on didn't like that, because it kind of exposed them, and then they sued them and they lost. Yeah. And then Snap-on says, yeah, but our jack can go higher, and the reason that their jack could go higher is they put bigger wheels on it. Anyway, on with the coilovers. So wheels off, we got it up on the jack on the front subframe, but also two axle stands underneath there as well. These are apparently quite simple. What you've got here is you've got a couple of 14mm bolts there that will drop it out of the top mount, and then the strut will fasten on there with possibly a 14mm bolt, haven't found out yet. And then there's a little bracket there that holds the ABS there, which is a 10mm, so you've got to take that off. You've got to take those off up there, and you've got to get that out. Now this is the fun one, because what you'll do is you'll try every socket you can in the end there, and it won't fit. And then what you'll realise, if you go online, is there's a plastic cover on here, which basically like a dust cover, you've got to get that off. And you spend ages and ages here trying to wedge that out of there and not getting anywhere. But you realise it was that cruddied up, you couldn't see the join line, and that's a metal sort of washer, what's part of that. That's the plastic, and they are separate. So what you have to do is kind of whack something in between there, and then try and get that plastic cover off, like that, to expose your bolt. So that bolt there, I need to get a breaker bar on it, because it's not coming out, and you can't get a breaker bar on it because that blooming anti-roll bar's in the way, which don't want to come off anyway because that's blooming stuck on and all. So what I've had to do is take this big bar out of there, so I can basically get a bit of movement in here. Now if I take the shock out at the top, hopefully this should come down a little bit, which should pull that away from there, which should give me access to get a breaker bar on that bolt. So now we're in. Oh God, that's stiff. Yeah, we're loose. So bolt is out. Shock is on still. Yeah. So here's the side-by-side comparison. By the way, these are sided, as in one goes one side and one goes to the side. It's to do with the way round. This is the nuts welded on the back, so the nuts welded on the back of that one as well, and obviously that's on that side. That goes towards the wishbone, shall we call it. So in that form, that is going to be the ride height difference, which is probably about 2 inches. Obviously I'll probably want to be about 1.5 inches, I think, so I might just bring this down slightly. So what I need to do is slacken this geezer here off, like so, without hurting my hand. Really blooming awkward. Ouch. Yep, so what I need to do is turn that way to loosen that off, and then I'm going to wind this out. That's giving me roughly 1.5 inches difference. So what we're going to do now is line up the bolts in roughly the same pattern that they're lined up on there, like so, and bring you down there. We'll just do that up by hand because we'll probably have to adjust that slightly on the car. So just taking another measurement for reference on the other side now. So basically from the outside of that lock to the outside of the lock is 75mm. Well, that's the top mount out of that, and it's crusty as, and also it's not compatible anyway, so we're not going to use that. So I'm going to offer him on. So now that's down there. Got a couple of choices. Got a washer which came off the last one, and a nut, but the nut doesn't kind of go on fully with that washer. So, and the nut's kind of got a washer built into it anyway. So I think we'll just go with the nut for now, but we'll keep the washer in a safe place. So we'll just do that loosely for a minute, and then we have got them roughly in the right place. So this is obviously what I said, loosen that up, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to twist him about a bit to get him to line up. So I'm going to try and push him up there now. This probably would be a two-person job normally, but I haven't got two persons. So what I'm going to need here is a jack. Yeah, that went well. So what we're going to do now, we're going to just put these on loosely so that it doesn't fall down somewhere. So what you have to do now is get this back in, which involved lots of lining up of stuff. But that's now back in, and that can go on there. So what we're going to do now is torque that up, tighten that up, tighten that up, do the bolts up at the top and attach this to here. So that's in tight, that's in tight, that's in tight, and they're in tight. So wheel back on. That's just the initial setting. Obviously we can go lower if we want, which I probably will do. That's fully off the jack. Currently at the centre of the wheel, we've got about 50mm there to the tyre. If we come round this side, which we haven't done yet, there we go, centre of the wheel. Yeah, there's about 70mm there, so yeah, I've loaded about 20mm I think so far. So that's kind of set a benchmark, but I reckon I want to come down another 40mm. So jack back up to adjust this. We've got to obviously take this geezer out of here again. Don't want that on there. At least I've got to take that one off. I'm not sure whether I'm going to have to drop it down and take it out, or whether I can twist it round in situ. So yeah, it turns out you got to take the bolts out of that so it can fully drop down, so that you can get some basically wiggle on it to get it off of here. And take it out the car. So when you first set the eye on this, you can't just take the old one and basically make it 1.5 inch load on it, because they're two different shocks and the way they're set will be different. However, once you have set this, if I take 40mm off this, we'll move that up 40mm. That will make 40mm difference to the height, because basically it's the amount it settles is all in the pre-tensioning, and that is basically already done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this up and I'm going to move this up 40mm. So that's that adjusted. Time to put it back on the car. So for reference to the side, that measurement to that measurement there is 40mm. So wheels on, it's looking as low as it did when it was on the ground, and it's not even gone down yet. Well, that's off the jack. That's how it should be, isn't it? Yeah, so what we got now, about 20mm to the top of the tyre. So this is what we got to lose. So yeah, we are going to clear so hit the cooler will clear the floor. Okay, might have slightly overdone it. However, when I do the back, that obviously will tip up a bit at the front. So front's done. That was relatively easy once I'd done that side and worked out how to do it. Did have a bit of problem this side getting that upper control arm to line up and get the bolt through, which is an absolute pain in the backside, but eventually with a lot of hammering and swearing and stuff, that happened. So now on to the back to sort this little problem out. So if you thought the front was difficult, the back, all you need to do is there'll be one bolt on the end of the strut here. It goes through the control arm, but you can thread it back through, and there's 2 bolts on the top, which sounds really easy. These 2 bolts are under this panel here. However, to get this panel off, you got to take this panel off, which you probably got to take this panel off to do that, to get access to a bolt down here. There's a bolt down there that's not in, there's a bolt there, and the best bit, there's a bolt down there, right, which is underneath the chair, which basically means you've got to take the entire back seats out, and I think some of that trim to get that bolt out to get this panel off. And then when you've done that, you've got to do it on that side as well. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that, and then we'll reconvene. So there you have it, all the back panels are out. I've taken the parcel shelfie thing out, and I've pulled the seat forward. And down here there's well, there's one what's not on, because I think that was what the problem was. It's getting it past that onto there. Well, I mean, it's going to come off without taking the seat out because of that latch. But we'll find out. And we've got one here and one over to the side. So here's where we are. This needs to come this way to get over that. But obviously this is here. Luckily this one's not fixed very well anyway. You can see under there's a little tab which bolts down. Luckily I've not bolted that, which is good. I have a funny feeling I might bolt it on the other side though, which is going to be really awkward. So that's got to go that way and up past that, which luckily this one's off, the other one isn't. But also you've got to kind of get it off that tab down there and off this tab and past that at the same time. That's very clever this time, thank you. And with that being said, it's not coming off because we've still got in here. So that's out. Let's get this out. Yeah. So if you come around this side and I do what I did before and I lift that up, that's our bolts. That's the plastic trying to rip my hand off, but that's the access I'm getting, and that's gonna do. Back wheel is off. What we got in here is 2 12s, and then down here that's a 17 with a 17mm nut under the side. So take this out, that should probably come down a bit, then take the top bolts out, that'll drop out, put the other one in, jack it up, bolt it back together. So you'll notice this is the opposite side. That is because that bolt did not want to come off on the other side. It did not want to come off on this side either, but it has come off now. Anyway, so that's out, jack supported the hub. Just need to go up here, get in here, get those out, take the shock out. So we've undone the top bolts, and it's not fell down and it's not attached to anything, it's just stiff. Well, basically there's literally no room between there and there because of the spring tension. So what I have to do is kind of get the crowbar in, knock it off there a bit, use the jack to jack this up past it, get it past it, then knock it back down, then lower that back down on the jack. So now we have fell through the upper control arm, and we're going to come up back through the upper control arm and out the wheel arch. Quick comparison, this here on here is narrower than that there, which the bolt goes through. So what I'm going to have to do is put some washers here and some washers there, so I'm going to have to go and get some of them. I've preset this here at 40mm like I did the fronts, which should basically give me the same sort of fitment as the fronts. This is generally shorter than that one anyway, so it should easily go in there. Plan of attack here is to get you in there and to put you up through the holes here, get up the top, get one nut on. Yep, another one on. So now it's bolted in at the top. What we're going to do is jack the hub up. So that meets there. And then we're going to put the bolt back through. And now that's there. I'm going to put the bolt back through there. So right, so what we've got now is a bit of a problem because this is open wider. The bolt's not long enough. So obviously the bolt wasn't long enough, so I've gone out and got some new hardware. What we've got here, we've got the bolt, got a couple of washers in there, a couple of washers to the side, and then a nut on the end. Yep, currently that is the fitment there. Obviously when we drop it down it should come up a little bit and go in a little bit, and we'll just see how close it is. Not quite all the way down on the jack, and that's going to touch very shortly. Obviously I'm going to have to raise these up slightly. Really easy to adjust the rears. Just take the bottom bolt out with that jacked up. Obviously I've lowered the jack now, which has lowered this down, and when you lower that down you could basically twist that out. So what I've done is I loosened that off, twisted it out, so this is now 55 instead of 40, so I'm going to give myself another 15 mil. So now I'm going to jack this back up so that this lines up with the bolt, put the bolt back in, and then this should be 15 mil extra here. Well, there you go, I've took 15 mil off, and yeah, I'm going to have to get that rolled there. So it looks good. It ain't unusable, but it looks good, but it'll do for now. Got to do some fine tuning on that, and then when I want to eventually get it this low, I'm going to have to get that rolled to make that practical. I've got a little problem round the front, that being that the intercooler sits lower than the bumper, so it's almost touching the floor. However, I can fix that, but that is a problem for a different video, so please consider it in the subscribe, like, comment, and stick around for that, because that will be coming up shortly. So there it is, it's lowered, it's YouTube ready. It looks good, but it's, you know, I can't drive it. And also if you look in here, yeah, that's the interior. But yep, done. So if you've enjoyed this video as much as I have, please consider a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next one. Thank you for watching.